Born Kings. You ever sit back and wonder if we gonna make it? Like, not just survive, but really live out here? Tariq leaned against the rusted gate outside Big Joe's barbershop, the sound of clippers buzzing behind him. His cousin, Jason, sat on the curb, fiddling with a crushed soda can. The city around them hummed. Car horns, sneakers scuffing the pavement, somebody yelling about how they got robbed for the last time. "Ain't nobody gonna hand us nothing, Rick," Jason said, shaking his head. "You waiting for the world to see us? Bruh, we gotta be seen. Stand tall like they can't look past us." Tariq nodded, but his shoulders slumped anyway. His job at the plant had just cut hours again, and his daughter was growing faster than his paycheck. Every step forward felt like a step back. "Man, it's like no matter how hard I go, I'm stuck in the same place." Jason smirked, tossing the can into the street. "You talking like we ain't built for this. Don't you know? Every breath you take is a win, fam. They've been trying to bury us, but we like seeds out here. We rise." The weight in Tariq's chest loosened just a little. He didn't have all the answers, but Jason's words carried something he hadn't felt in a while. Hope. Tariq squinted up at the hazy sky, the late afternoon sun breaking through like it was fighting for space. "Seeds, huh? That mean I'm supposed to grow through all this concrete?" Jason chuckled, the deep kind that carried warmth. "Exactly that, my guy. But you gotta water yourself first. Can't expect to bloom if you don't believe you got roots." Before Tariq could answer, the barbershop door swung open. Big Joe stepped out, wiping his hands on a towel. His voice was as heavy as his presence, carrying years of wisdom and patience. "Y'all out here spitting poetry or what? Jason, you sound like you've been watching them motivational videos again." Jason grinned, tossing up his hands. "Somebody gotta do it, Big Joe. Too many of us walking around like we forgot who we are." Joe nodded, looking Tariq square in the eye. "He's right, you know. You keep letting the world tell you what you worth, and you gon' start believing it. But me? I see a king standing here." Tariq shifted on his feet, uncomfortable with the attention. "Ain't feel like no king lately." Joe stepped closer, his gaze steady. "That's the thing about kings. They don't always feel it, but the crown's still theirs. It ain't about feeling ready. It's about knowing it's already yours." Jason clapped Tariq on the shoulder. "Man, you hearing this? You got Big Joe giving sermons out here, and you still doubting yourself." Tariq smirked despite himself. "Aight, I hear y'all. But what I'm supposed to do? World don't care about no crown." Joe leaned against the doorframe, crossing his arms. "First thing, stop worrying about the world. Start with you. You wake up tomorrow, look in the mirror, and tell yourself you got something to offer. Don't let nobody take that from you." Jason nodded, his tone softening. "One step at a time, bruh. You don't gotta fix it all in a day. Just don't stop walking." Tariq took a deep breath, the weight in his chest shifting. For the first time in a while, it felt like maybe, just maybe, he could find a way forward. The next morning, Tariq stood in front of his bathroom mirror, toothbrush in hand. His reflection stared back, tired and unsure. Joe's words echoed in his mind. "Tell yourself you got something to offer." "All right," he muttered, setting the toothbrush down. "You got this. You built for this." It felt strange, talking to himself like this, but he kept at it. Day after day, little by little, the words started to feel less like lies. Meanwhile, Jason was busy planting seeds of his own. Jason stood in front of the cracked mirror in his one-bedroom apartment, a towel draped around his neck. The paint on the walls was peeling, and the heater had been broken since last winter, but he made it work. He always had. "Man, you still here?" he said to himself, staring at his reflection. "Damn right you still here. Ain't nothing take you out yet." The words hit like armor sliding into place. He'd been saying that to himself every morning since he was 15, back when his mom worked double shifts and the streets tried to swallow him whole. He was a survivor, not because the world let him be, but because he refused not to be. Jason threw on a fresh hoodie, and laced up his kicks. Outside, the block was already buzzing. A couple of young cats were arguing over a dice game near the corner, while old Mr. Lewis pushed his cart full of aluminum cans down the street. "Yo, Jay!" "What's good, bruh?" shouted Dre, one of the younger dudes Jason had been keeping an eye on. Dre was 19, full of fire, but with no direction. The streets were pulling at him hard. "What's good, lil man?" Jason called back, walking up to him. "You still talking about flipping weight, or you trying to do something real with yourself?" Dre smirked, but it was weak. "Man, it's hard out here. You know that. Gotta get it how I live." Jason gave him a hard look, the kind that shut down bullshit. "Nah, what you gotta do is stop thinking small. You out here playing with crumbs when you could be sitting at the table." "What table? Ain't nobody inviting me to shit." Jason stepped closer, lowering his voice but keeping that fire in his tone. "Then build your own, bruh. Start thinking like a king, not a pawn." Dre looked down, scuffing the ground with his sneaker. Jason patted him on the shoulder. "I'm serious, man. You need something? You hit me up. But don't let these streets trick you into thinking this all you worth." Jason had learned the hard way what the streets could do. He'd lost his older brother, Marcus, to gun violence when he was 13. It wasn't a stray bullet either. Marcus had been caught up in some mess, trying to be the man too soon. Jason had spent years angry at the world for taking Marcus, but somewhere along the way, he realized that anger wasn't going to bring his brother back, or fix the system that made survival feel like a gamble. That's when he started pouring his energy into helping the younger dudes around him. "You ever feel like life just be trying to knock you out the ring?" Tariq asked as he sat across from Jason at a park bench. Jason nodded, sipping his coffee. "Hell yeah, but you gotta stop thinking it's just you. That's the trick. Make you feel like you out here fighting alone, when really, we all in the same ring." Tariq rubbed the back of his neck. "Yeah, but how you keep getting back up? I feel like every time I stand up, life hit me harder." Jason leaned forward, his voice low but firm. "'Cause you don't quit, man. You ain't got the luxury. You got your little girl watching, right?" Tariq nodded, his chest tightening. "Yeah, she's why I get up every day." "Then that's your answer," Jason said. "You do it for her, but don't just survive for her, bro. Live. Show her what a real king look like." Tariq sat back, letting the words sink in. Jason had a way of saying shit that hit where it needed to. Tariq sat in his car outside the plant, his hands gripping the steering wheel so tight his knuckles turned white. The foreman had called another meeting that morning. More cuts, fewer hours, and no word on when things might change. "Man, fuck this," Tariq muttered under his breath. He slapped the steering wheel, the sharp sound bouncing off the inside of the car. His phone buzzed in the cup holder. He glanced down and saw the name Keisha, his daughter's mom. He sighed, leaning his head back against the seat. He already knew what the call was about. "What's up, Keisha?" he said, answering on the third ring. "What's up?" "Tariq, where the hell is your half of Jada's daycare money?" Her tone was sharp, cutting right through him. "I'm working on it," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Working on it? Tariq, I'm tired of hearing that. They already sent me a notice. If we don't pay by Friday, they kicking her out." "I said I'm working on it," he snapped, louder than he meant to. The silence that followed was heavy. "Yeah, all right," Keisha said finally, her voice colder now. "You always working on it. Just let me know when you got it." The line went dead. Tariq threw the phone onto the passenger seat, his chest heaving. He couldn't remember the last time he didn't feel like he was drowning. Tariq sat at the tiny kitchen table in his apartment, a stack of bills spread out in front of him. The numbers didn't make sense, no matter how many ways he tried to rearrange them. The rent was due next week. The lights were already past due, and now Keisha was on his neck about daycare. He leaned back in his chair, staring up at the water-stained ceiling. His mind drifted back to when he was a kid, watching his dad work double shifts at the warehouse just to keep food on the table. Back then, His pops made it look easy. But now, sitting in his shoes, Tariq knew the truth. This shit ain't easy at all, he muttered. He thought about picking up a second job, but the plant's rotating shifts made it damn near impossible. He'd tried side hustles before, but nothing ever stuck. Every idea felt like chasing smoke. His stomach growled, reminding him he hadn't eaten since breakfast. He opened the fridge and stared at the half-empty shelves. A carton of eggs, a couple of slices of bread, and a bottle of hot sauce. Gourmet dinner, he said dryly, grabbing the eggs and bread. As he fried up a sad excuse for a sandwich, he caught his reflection in the dark window over the sink. He looked tired, bags under his eyes, his hairline creeping back like it was trying to escape his stress. Man, you gotta do better, he said to himself, shaking his head. A few days later, Tariq was walking home from the plant when he passed by a neighborhood basketball court. A group of kids were playing, their laughter echoing through the cool evening air. For a second, he stopped, watching them. They didn't have a care in the world, just running, shouting, and chasing the ball like it was the only thing that mattered. He thought about Jada, about how she loved to run up to him with her crayons, showing him her latest masterpiece. He thought about how her laugh could light up the whole room, even on his worst days. She deserves better than this, he whispered. That night, Tariq pulled out an old notebook he hadn't touched in years. Back in high school, he used to write poetry. Nothing fancy, just whatever was on his mind. He flipped through the pages, the old words staring back at him like ghosts of a different life. He grabbed a pen and started writing, the words spilling out like they'd been waiting for him all along. Tariq didn't know if writing would change anything, but it gave him something he hadn't felt in a long time. Control. Each night, after Jada fell asleep on the nights she stayed with him, he'd sit at the table and write. It wasn't about rhymes or making it sound pretty. It was about getting the weight off his chest. Some days, the words came slow, dragged out by frustration and exhaustion. Other days, they poured out so fast his hand couldn't keep up. And little by little, something started to shift. He didn't feel so heavy all the time. The bills were still there. The job still sucked. But for the first time in a long while, he didn't feel like he was drowning. Tariq was finding his own way forward, one word at a time. Tariq leaned back in his chair, staring at the words on the page. The notebook sat open on the table, filled with raw emotions, memories, and plans. It wasn't just poetry anymore. It was starting to feel like a blueprint. Man, why the fuck not? He muttered to himself, tapping the pen against the table. He thought about his daughter, about how she deserved to grow up seeing her dad do more than just survive. He wanted her to know that the world might not hand her shit, but that didn't mean she couldn't take it. "Aight, Tariq," he said aloud, slapping the table. "Time to boss up." The next morning, Tariq hit the streets. Not aimlessly, though. This time, he had a plan. He started calling old friends, people he knew from back in the day who had managed to level up in life. One of those calls was to Andre, an old high school classmate who now ran a small landscaping business. Tariq caught up with him over coffee. "So, what's up, Reek?" Andre asked, leaning back in his chair. "What you trying to do?" "Man, I'm trying to stop playing small," Tariq said, leaning forward. "Tired of working my ass off just to keep my head above water. I want something real, something that's mine." Andre nodded, stroking his beard. "I feel you, bruh. Took me a minute to get my shit together, too. Ain't nobody gonna hand us nothing, though. You know that?" "That's why I'm here," Tariq said. "You built something from the ground up. I need to know how." Andre chuckled. "Shit, it ain't no secret. You start small, stay consistent, and don't quit. You got a vision?" Tariq hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah. I've been thinking about something like a handyman service. You know, fixing shit, doing small jobs. I'm good with my hands." "Bet. That's a start," Andre said. "You make a name for yourself. People gon' pay good money for that kind of work." Tariq went home that night and started sketching out a plan. He couldn't afford to quit his job at the plant yet, but he could hustle on the side. He picked up some flyers from a print shop, simple black and white designs that read, Tariq's Repairs, no job too small. The first week, he passed out flyers all over the neighborhood, tucking them under doors, handing them out at corner stores, and even pinning a few up at Big Joe's barber shop. The calls came slow at first, an old lady needing her sink fixed, a guy down the block with a busted screen door. But word spread. By the end of the month, Tariq was booking jobs every weekend. One night, after finishing up a job, Tariq sat on his porch with a beer in his hand. The air was cool, and for the first time in a long time, he felt something close to peace. Jason pulled up in his old Buick, killing the engine with a sputter. "What's good, Reek?" he said, stepping out. "Heard you out here grinding?" Tariq smirked, lifting his beer. "Trying to get like you, bruh." Jason laughed, sitting down next to him. "You already on your way? How it feel?" "Shit," Tariq said, exhaling. "Feel like I'm finally taking some power back. Like I ain't just out here at life's mercy no more." Jason nodded, his tone serious now. "That's how it's supposed to feel. We deserve that, Rick. All of it. Power, freedom, respect. But we gotta claim it. Ain't nobody gonna give it to us." "You right," Tariq said, his voice firm. "I'm done waiting." By the end of the year, Tariq's handyman hustle had grown into something real. He hired a couple of dudes from the neighborhood who were down on their luck, giving them a chance to get back on their feet. "Ain't no reason we can't all eat," Tariq told them one day after a job. "We kings, man. We deserve it all." The men nodded, the weight of his words sinking in. For so long, they'd been told to settle for scraps, to be grateful just to make it through the day. But now, they were starting to believe something different. Tariq wasn't just fixing broken pipes and patching up walls anymore. He was building something bigger, a life where he could stand tall and proud. And as he did, he carried his people with him. This wasn't about survival anymore. It was about thriving, about standing in the world like they belonged in every room, every boardroom, every conversation. Because they did. Because they always had. Because kings don't ask for permission. They just take the throne. Tariq wasn't the only one figuring out how to level up. Around him, other black men were moving, fighting, building, each in their own way. The streets had tried to break them, but they weren't built to fold. They were born to be kings. Dre stood outside the sneaker shop, staring at the help wanted sign in the window. "Man, I don't know about this," he muttered under his breath. For years, Dre had been out here trying to make $1 the fast way. He was slick with his hands, quick on his feet, and smart enough to not get caught. But lately, the streets had been feeling different, more desperate, more dangerous. He lost 2 homies to bullshit in just the past 6 months. He thought about what Jason told him. "You out here playing with crumbs when you could be sitting at the table." Dre shook his head and stepped inside. The shop smelled like fresh leather and new beginnings. A tall, older black man behind the counter looked him up and down. "You here to buy or apply?" Dre hesitated, then lifted his chin. "Apply." The man nodded. "Good. We need somebody who knows shoes, knows the culture. You one of them boys always out here trying to flip kicks?" Dre smirked. "Yeah, something like that." "Then you already got a business mind," the man said. "You just using it backwards." That hit Dre like a punch to the chest. He had spent years flipping sneakers on the side, running plays like a businessman. He just never saw himself as one. "I'm trying to do shit different," Dre admitted. "Then let's start here," the man said, handing him an application. "Work the floor, learn the business, and when you're ready, I'll show you how to run your own." Dre took the paper, a strange feeling bubbling in his chest. This wasn't just a job. This was a new lane. Big Joe had been cutting hair for 20 years, and in that time, he'd seen too many young black men come and go. Some locked up, some buried too soon, some just lost in the system. That's why he ran his barbershop the way he did. It wasn't just a place to get a fade. It was a safe haven. a spot where young men could get game, learn something, feel like they belonged. But lately, Joe had been thinking bigger. "I'm tired of just renting this space," he told Jason one night as they closed up the shop. "It's time to own." Jason raised an eyebrow. "What you mean?" "I mean, this whole block getting bought up by people who don't even live here," Joe said. "They moving us out, piece by piece. And we letting them." Jason leaned against the counter. "So what you trying to do?" Joe exhaled. "Buy this damn building. Own it outright. Then I'ma start buying up more. Turn this into something for us. By us?" Jason nodded slowly. "That's real, Joe? That's power." "Damn right," Joe said. "We've been letting people tell us what we can and can't have for too long. I ain't asking no more. I'm taking what's mine." Mike had done everything the right way. Went to college, got the degree, landed a corporate job downtown. For years, he sat in meetings surrounded by white faces, nodding, smiling, trying to make himself small so he didn't seem like a threat. But he was tired. Tired of code switching. Tired of feeling like he had to prove his worth every damn day. One night, after another long day of kissing ass for a paycheck, he sat down at his desk, opened his laptop, and started typing up his resignation letter. "You really about to do this?" his boy Jamal asked when Mike called him up. "Yeah, man," Mike exhaled. "I've been playing by their rules for too long. I want my own shit." Jamal laughed. "Took you long enough? What's next?" "I've been saving up," Mike said. "Go and start my own consulting firm. Help small black businesses get their paperwork right, lock in funding, build from the ground up." "That's some real boss shit," Jamal said. "Damn right," Mike replied, because freedom wasn't just about money. It was about moving on his own terms. Tariq, Dre, Big Joe, Mike, each of them was pushing forward, taking what was theirs. It wasn't easy. The world wasn't built for them to win. But they were done playing small. Black men had been told to shrink, to wait their turn, to be grateful for crumbs. But these men, they were hungry for the whole meal. They were done asking. They were claiming their crowns. Tariq, Dre, Big Joe, Jason, and Mike weren't just talking about success. They were walking in it. One by one, they built something real, something they could be proud of. The world had always tried to tell them they were supposed to struggle, supposed to settle. But they had other plans. Tariq's handyman hustle had started small, fixing sinks, patching drywall, fixing busted locks. But word spread fast when you did good work, and before long, his phone was ringing nonstop. Then came the big break. A property manager downtown hired him to handle repairs in a whole apartment complex. That one contract turned into 3 more. Before he knew it, he was hiring a crewman from the neighborhood who just needed a shot. "Y'all ain't working for me," Tariq told them at their first meeting. "We working for each other. We build this shit up together." And they did. By year 3, Tariq's home repair and contracting was the biggest black-owned contracting business in the city. No more scraping by, no more check-to-check stress. And through it all, Keisha had been watching. She saw the late nights, the early mornings, the sacrifices. She saw him show up for Jada every time, never missing a school play, never too busy to be a father. One night, she sat across from him at dinner and said, "I see you, Rick." "Yeah?" he said, setting his drink down. "Yeah," she said, "and I love what I see." 6 months later, they were standing in the doorway of their new house. Big yard, real quiet neighborhood, nothing but space and peace. Tariq pulled Keisha and Jada close, looking up at the sky. "We made it," he whispered. But even in that big-ass house, he still pulled up at Big Joe's every week, 'cause real ones never forget where they came from. Big Joe didn't just buy the shop. He bought the whole damn building. Then, he bought another. And another. By the time he was done, Big Joe's barbershop had 3 locations, all in black neighborhoods, all built to be more than just spots for a fresh cut. I'm building more than a business, Joe told Jason one day. I'm building a legacy. Joe wasn't just cutting hair. He was putting young black men on game, showing them how to own shit, how to flip a dollar, how to move with power. And Jason? He soaked it all in. Jason had never been the type to chase big money. All he ever wanted was to make an impact. Working at Big Joe's gave him that. He saw kids come in wild and reckless, then leave with a fresh cut and some wisdom they didn't even know they needed. One day, a young boy named Mark came in, no older than 10, quiet as hell. Jason cut his hair in silence, then asked, "You good, lil man?" Mark just nodded. "Nah," Jason said. "For real. What's up?" The boy hesitated, then mumbled, I don't feel like I matter sometimes." That shit hit Jason deep. He set his clippers down, turned the chair so Mark could see himself in the mirror. "Look at you, bruh," Jason said. "You see that king in the mirror? The world might not tell you, but I'ma tell you. You matter. You powerful. You important. And don't let nobody ever make you feel different." The boy nodded, a small smile creeping up. And that's why Jason did what he did. Dre took that sneaker shop job and flipped it into something major. The owner put him on game. How to handle inventory, how to set pricing, how to build relationships with suppliers. 2 years later, Dre's Kicks opened its doors, the first black-owned sneaker boutique in the city. And he wasn't just selling shoes. He was putting young hustlers onto legal money, teaching them the game so they wouldn't have to make the same mistakes he did. "You ain't got to risk your life to get rich," he told them. "Flip smart, flip legal, and keep your head high." Mike walked away from the corporate world and never looked back. With his savings, he started Crown Consulting, helping black businesses get their paperwork right, apply for grants, and own their shit. By year 2, he had helped over 50 black businesses get funded. "We ain't begging nobody for a damn thing," he told his clients. "We taking what's ours." One summer night, all the fellas met up at Big Joe's original shop, the one that started it all. Jason was locking up when he turned to see Tariq, Dre, Mike, and Big Joe standing outside. "Damn, all y'all here at the same time?" Jason smirked. "Hell yeah," Tariq said. "Felt like a good night for a reunion." They all sat out front, laughing, drinking, talking about how far they'd come. Then Joe got quiet. "Y'all ever just stop and think about the ones who ain't make it?" he asked. Silence fell over them. They thought about the homies they lost, the brothers taken too soon, the dreams that never got to live. "We owe it to 'em to keep going," Jason said. "To live big, love hard, and make sure the next generation got a better shot than we did." Tariq nodded, eyes shining. "We kings," Dre said, "and kings don't die. They multiply." They raised their glasses, toasting to the past, to the struggle, and most of all, to the future. The world had tried to break them, tried to tell them they didn't deserve it all, tried to make them forget their power. But they never forgot. They never backed down. And now, they were free. They were powerful. They were kings.